4 months after my wife died, I realized the dinner invitations had simply stopped coming. My name is Mason Parker. My wife Carol and I were married 44 years, out in Denver. We had a circle, the same 4 or 5 couples, dinner every few weeks, 30 years of it. Then Carol got sick, and then Carol was gone, and I was still there. Same chair, same table, and I could feel exactly what I had become. The widower, the odd number, the empty seat where half a couple used to sit. Nobody was cruel about it. That is the part nobody warns you about. The calls got shorter, then further apart, then they mostly stopped. I kept telling myself it was grief, that they were giving me room. But room, I came to understand, is just a polite word for gone. I could have kept sitting by that phone, waiting to be included, getting a little smaller every year. Plenty of widowers do exactly that, but 69 felt far too young to spend the rest of my life as somebody's afterthought. I booked a trip to the Philippines, just to see. I ended up staying in a town called Dumaguete, where the whole neighborhood gathers by the sea every single evening. But I am getting ahead of myself, because none of it started that way, and I want to stop right here, because this is where the polished retirement videos lie to you, and I am not going to do that to you today. What happened when I landed was not palm trees and easy smiles and gentle music. What happened when I landed was that I nearly got back on the plane. The heat hit me first, before I was even off the jet bridge in Manila. Wet, heavy heat that sits on you and does not let up, day or night. Then the noise. Then a long, sweating wait for a small propeller plane down to Dumaguete. Then a tricycle, a motorbike with a sidecar bolted to the side, rattling me and 2 suitcases through streets I could not read in the dark, dropping me in front of a rented apartment that smelled of mildew and somebody else's cooking. That first night I sat on the edge of a stranger's bed under a ceiling fan that only pushed the hot air around without cooling any of it. Thousands of miles from a single person who knew my name. And I thought, Mason, you fool, what in God's name did you do? I was 69 years old. I put my face in my hands and I cried in a way I had not let myself cry at Carol's funeral. I had the phone in my hand, one tap away from booking a flight home. I did not book it. I do not have some noble reason why. I was just too tired. I told myself, 1 week. Give it 1 week, and if you still feel like this, you go home and you never tell a soul how foolish you were. Deal. Deal. That first week was hard. The weeks after were hard in a slower way. And I am going to tell you the truth about all of it. The power went out constantly. They call it a brownout there, a nice little word for the whole neighborhood going dark, and you learn to keep candles around and just sweat it out. It rained like I had never seen rain, not Colorado rain. A wall of water coming down on the tin roof so loud you could not hear yourself think. I would lie there and feel about as low as I had ever felt in my life. I missed things I never thought I would miss. My own dishwasher, knowing exactly where things were. A cool, dry October evening. I missed that so badly it was almost like missing a person. And I missed Carol in a brand new way, because now there was not anybody to say, look at this rain, to. I was lonely. I will not dress that up. That first month I was every bit as lonely there as I had been back in Denver. I would walk down to the little corner store, buy shampoo 1 packet at a time through a little window, and come home without saying another word to a living soul until the next day. I will tell you the dumbest thing I did that first month. I have never lived it down. There is a woman down the Boulevard who runs an exercise class in the evenings, music and dancing, older folks mostly. I saw a group of women my age lined up near the seawall one evening, and I just wandered over and got in line, big smile, ready to belong to something. The music started and I was flapping around half a beat behind everybody, arms going the wrong way, thinking, look at me, I am doing it, I am one of them. It took me 3 or 4 songs to figure out I had walked into entirely the wrong group. The real instructor was way down on the other end. I had joined some family celebrating somebody's grandmother's birthday, and they had been too polite to say a single word. When I finally realized, my face went so red. But they did not laugh unkindly. One of them, a woman I would later learn was named Grace, just took my elbow, still laughing, and walked me over to the real class, patting my arm the whole way, saying, it is okay, wrong group, still dancing, same thing. Then there was the paper slid under my door a couple weeks in, all written in the local dialect, official looking, some kind of stamp on it. I got it in my head it was serious, a visa problem, the police. I did not know. And I did not have anybody to ask. That was the thing. I sat with it half the night. In the morning I put on a nice shirt and walked down to the local government office. I handed the man the paper and started talking too much, explaining I was a legal visitor. I did not mean any trouble. He looked at the paper, then at me, and called another man over. They were talking back and forth, and I could not follow any of it. Then he smiled and said one word, and I still did not get it. He had to say it a few times before I understood. The paper was an invitation. A street party, basketball, free food, that was all it was. I said thank you and got out of there fast, feeling like such a fool, because there was not one single person in that whole country I could have just handed it to and asked, what is this? Before I tell you what changed everything, subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. Every week on this channel, we cover the real financial and emotional realities of retirement for American seniors, not the polished version, the honest one. Next week, I am covering what widowed seniors specifically need to know about Social Security survivor benefits before making any major decision. Subscribe now so that video reaches you when you need it. Here's the thing about that town. The kindness there is a slow thing. It does not show up all at once. It shows up in people, one at a time, and I want to tell you their names because they are the reason I am still there. First was a woman everyone called Manang Elite, a respect term placed before someone's name. She was maybe 55, and she came 3 mornings a week to help me clean, which felt absurdly grand to me until I learned it was completely ordinary there, and that it kept a little money moving in a family that needed it. In the beginning, we barely talked, just pointed and nodded. But she started leaving me things. A bowl of sliced mango on the counter. Once, a warm bag of rice porridge with a note in careful handwriting that said, "For your afternoon snack, it is good for the heart." I ate it standing at the counter and cried into it, and could not have told you exactly why. There was a fruit vendor named Nora. The first time I bought from her, I clearly overpaid, and she chased me down the street in that heat to give me the extra money back, and to patiently teach me, coin by coin, what the currency actually was. After that, she would wave me over every time and hold up whatever was best that day. She learned my name in 3 days. My own friends in Denver had known me 30 years and forgotten I was alive. A woman selling mangoes learned my name in 3 days. There was a tricycle driver named Ricky, 26, wife and a new baby, who just sort of appointed himself my personal driver. He would be waiting outside most mornings on the chance I needed to go somewhere. When I got a fever my 2nd month, Ricky drove me to the clinic and waited the whole time and would not take the fare. Now, a lot of you came for this part, so let me put it on the table plain. When I had that fever, the doctor there, a woman named Dr. Marie, spent 45 unhurried minutes with me, and it cost about $12. 12. The medicine was another 8. Back home, that same fever would have been a $200 afternoon before I said a single word. My apartment, clean, 2 bedrooms, a little balcony where I can see a sliver of the sea, runs about $350 a month. I found it after I had been in that mildewy first rental almost 6 weeks, when Elite heard me complaining about the damp and mentioned her cousin's neighbor had a place coming open. The landlady, a sharp woman in her 70s who had taught grade school 40 years, knocked money off the rent because, she said, you are alone, and a loan should not pay like a company. Power, water, and internet, even running the air conditioning more than I probably should, comes to maybe $120 a month. Groceries run around $80 and feed me generously. I eat like a king. Fish that was in the sea that morning, fresh fruit, meals out by the water, and my whole food bill lands near $250. Add it all up, throw a cushion in for boat trips and whatever comes up, and I live on about $1,250 a month. And I am not scraping by. I live better here than I lived in Denver, counting every receipt. But I need you to hear me. That is not why I stayed. If it were only about the money, I would have been comfortable and lonely. And comfortable and lonely is exactly what I flew away from. The reason I stayed is something the numbers cannot touch, and to tell you about it, I have to take you down to the Boulevard by the sea in the evening, because that is where it happened. Every evening in Dumaguete, when the sun starts going down and the worst of the heat lifts, the whole city drifts toward the water. There is a long seaside boulevard, everybody just calls it the Boulevard, and people walk it, families, old folks, kids, and finally a breeze off the water. It is the best hour of the day there. The first few weeks I walked it alone, on the edge of everything, watching everybody else. There was a group of women who gathered at the same spot most evenings, on the low seawall and on plastic stools they brought, fanning themselves, talking, watching the water. Grace from the dance mix-up was one of them. An older woman named Cora was another, maybe 75. One evening, I still do not fully know why, maybe I looked as lonely as I felt, one of them reached out and touched my arm as I passed and said, "Sir, sit, you are always walking, come rest with us." That was it. That was the whole thing. I sat. I did not follow half of what got said. They drifted between English and the local dialect and back, but they made sure I never felt outsided. Somebody handed me a cup of something sweet. Somebody asked about my wife, and I told them, and they did not flinch or go careful the way people back home had learned to. I said, "Back home, people do not know what to do with me now." And Cora nodded like she already knew and said, "Yes, yes, you are sad. They are scared. They look at you. They think, this can be me also. So they go. Not bad people," she said. "They just do not know." Then she took my hand and held on to it and said, "So now you are here. Good, you are here." Then, kind of stern, like an order, "You come back tomorrow. We are here every night." I did not think she meant it. I figured it was just a nice thing you say. But the next evening, when I came walking down the boulevard, half expecting the whole thing had been a fluke, there was a plastic chair sitting there, empty in their circle. When Grace spotted me coming, she waved both arms and hollered, "Mason, we kept it for you." They had put out a chair before I even got there, because they had figured I would come. I had to stop walking. I had to just stand there on that boulevard and breathe, because do you understand what that did to me? A few months before, I had been a total stranger there, owed these women nothing, and they owed me nothing. And they had gone and set out a chair for me before I even showed up. These women did not stay strangers with kind faces for long, because that is what happens when you sit with people night after night. You learn their lives. Grace ran a little laundry business out of her own home, and she had raised 4 children mostly alone after her husband took work on the ships and quietly stopped coming home. She never told it bitter. She told it laughing, the way she told most things. One evening she said, "Mason, I cried, and then I look around. My children are eating. My house is standing. And who did that? Me. So I stop crying and I make merienda." She was putting a granddaughter through nursing school one shirt at a time, and she showed me that girl's picture on a cracked phone screen about 50 times, every single time saying, "First nurse in the family." And Cora, the fierce old one with hardly any teeth, had buried a husband and, years back, a grown son as well, in a fishing accident. She had been coming down to that same seawall, nearly every evening for something like 20 years. It was Cora, another night, who said the thing I still turn over in my head the most. I had asked her, careful as I could, how she was not just swallowed whole by everything she had lost. She looked at me like it was a peculiar question and said, "The sea takes, the sea gives, every day, same water, you can not only watch the taking, you only watch the taking, you go crazy." Then she tipped her chin at the whole crowd on the boulevard, the kids, the courting couples, the old men bent over a chessboard. "This," she said, "you watch this. This is the giving." I do not believe a single soul in 30 years of Denver dinner parties ever said a thing to me half as true, and nobody made a speech about it. They just kept doing it. Every evening. Now, do not go thinking it all healed up neat and tidy after that, because it did not. There was one night, maybe 4 months in, that sank as low as any I have had. It was Carol's birthday. I had not told anybody. How would I? The Boulevard crowd had all gone home early ahead of a storm, and there I was, alone in that apartment, with the rain starting up and the power gone out again, sitting in the pitch dark. And it just rolled over me in a wave, the whole weight of it. 44 years, her side of the bed. I thought, what am I doing here, on the far side of the planet, sitting in the dark on my dead wife's birthday, thousands of miles from where she is buried? I could not even go set flowers down. I cried until I about made myself sick. Somewhere in there, I fell asleep in the chair. Grief does not care how far you fly. It packs itself right into your suitcase. Nobody tells you that part. But here is what happened the next morning, and it is the reason I am telling you the low part at all. I dragged myself down to the market, wrung dry, not fit for a soul to see. Nora took one look at me over her fruit cart and just knew. She did not ask a single question. She came around the cart and put her arms around me right there in the street and held on. Then she pressed the best mango on the cart into my hands and would not take a peso for it. That evening on the boulevard, I told them it had been Carol's birthday. Cora did not say sorry, did not get that scared, careful look people back home always got. She just said, "Then tonight we sit for her also." And she said her name, Carol, trying the shape of it. And then the whole circle of them said it. This ragged little chorus of women on a seawall saying my wife's name out into the dark over the water. Back home, people had gotten to where they would not say her name at all, like it might cut me. These women who never met her said it right out loud to the sea. I will not forget that as long as I live. There is one more person I have to tell you about, because she is the one that caught me most off guard. A woman named Malou turned up on the boulevard a good while after I did. A Filipino woman who had spent 30 years in California, a nurse, widowed the same as me, come home to Dumaguete and finding it as strange to land as I had, because 30 years gone makes you a stranger in your own hometown. She sat down in that circle stiff and lost, the exact way I once had. I watched Cora touch her arm and say the same words she had said to me. "Sit. Come rest with us." Something in me went off, because I knew that look. I dragged my chair next to hers and said, I know exactly. Sit by me." That was the start of it. Malou and I got to be the kind of friends I had not expected to find again. She has English and the local dialect both, so she would lean in and quietly fill me in on whatever I was missing. Some Sundays, we take the little boat over to the island. 2 widowed people in big floppy hats watching the water, not even needing to talk. She is the friend I lost when Carol died, in a way. That one person who is simply yours. I came halfway around the world grieving one thing and found, of all things, a close friend at 69 years old. I would not have believed you if you told me. I am not going to sit here and tell you everything is perfect now because I promised you the truth. It is not perfect. It is still hot. The power still goes out. There are still nights the homesickness rolls in, and I would give a lot for one cool, dry Colorado evening and one more hour with Carol. I still miss her every single day. That did not go anywhere. It is just not so quiet around it now. There are people in the room. There are hard days, plain, ordinary hard days, where I feel a long way from everything I knew. But everything being easy was never what I was after. I could not have named it that gray afternoon when I put the phone down. What I wanted was just this: to be somewhere I did not have to earn my way in, to be seen. That is really all it was. Back home, my whole life had been dinner parties. Then Carol died, and the invitations stopped coming. Down here, there is a group of women on a seawall who barely knew me and made a place for me anyway. Most evenings, I am just there with them now. That is the whole of it, and it is enough. I want to talk to one person now before I go. If you are watching this alone, if you have lost the person who made you a pair and the phone has gone quiet on you, I see you. I promise you I see you. I am not going to tell you to sell your house and fly across the planet. That was my crazy answer, and it does not have to be yours. But I will tell you the one thing I wish somebody had told me while I sat there by that silent phone. You do not have to just sit and wait to be included. You can go looking for the people. And it does not have to be the other side of the world. That was my crazy way. It could be a church down the road, a class, some group that has not met you yet. But they are not going to knock on your door. You have to actually go. I almost did not. Subscribe to Mason Parker USA and turn on the notification bell. I share stories like this every week, and I would be glad of the company. I will see you in the next one.